You're not tired. You're not lazy. Your brain isn't broken. You're just dehydrated. Most people are walking around every day not realizing their brain is operating on half power. They think they need more motivation, more caffeine, more sleep. But what they really need is water. You see, hydration isn't just about quenching thirst. It's about unlocking energy, mood, clarity, and performance. Your cells, trillions of them, are relying on one thing to function properly, and that's water. Not soda, not coffee, not energy drinks, pure water. But we've forgotten its power. We underestimate it. And that ends today. You wake up tired. Your head feels heavy. You reach for caffeine thinking that's the solution. But the truth is what you're really feeling is dehydration, not exhaustion, not laziness, just a lack of water. Most people are walking around every single day in a state of low-level dehydration, and they don't even know it. They think brain fog is normal. They think feeling slow or anxious is just a personality trait. It's not. It's your body sending a distress signal loud and clear. But because we've learned to ignore it, we mislabel it as something else. You see, when you're just 1% dehydrated, just 1%, it already starts to impair your memory, focus, and mood. At 2%, reaction times slow down. At 3%, your brain starts struggling to process basic information. That means most of the time, we're not performing at our full capacity. We're not tapping into our potential. Not because we lack motivation or discipline, but because our brain is working with less than what it needs to function. Your body is made up of trillions of cells, and every single one of those cells depends on water to work properly. It's not just something that quenches thirst. It's the delivery system for oxygen, for nutrients, for hormones. Without water, those systems slow down, and when that happens, you feel it. You feel it in the fogginess that creeps in by mid-morning. You feel it when your energy crashes in the afternoon. You feel it when your patience disappears for no reason. But we don't connect the dots. Why? Because we live in a world where hydration has taken a back seat to stimulation. People drink more coffee than water. They sip soda all day, but can't remember the last time they drank a full glass of water. And even worse, when they do feel thirsty, they reach for something flavored, sweetened, or carbonated. That's not hydration. That's distraction. Let's be clear, thirst is not a reliable signal. By the time you feel it, your brain function has already started to decline. You're already in a deficit, and you're already compromising your decision-making, your energy, and your emotional state. This isn't a theory. This is basic human physiology. There's a part of the brain called the hypothalamus. One of its roles is to regulate thirst and fluid balance. But this system adapts. It adjusts based on your habits. If you constantly ignore hydration, the signal weakens. The body stops asking. And that's where the silent damage begins. When you no longer realize that your body is operating with a shortage, here's what that looks like in real life. You're in a meeting trying to stay focused. You're reading something, but the words blur together. You feel anxious for no reason. You lose your temper over something small. And in all of those moments, there's a common denominator. Your brain isn't getting what it needs to operate at peak capacity. And one of the simplest, most overlooked solutions is water. We often talk about peak performance like it's something reserved for elite athletes or CEOs. But peak performance is not about ambition. It's about biology. It's about supporting the nervous system, supporting the brain, and supporting the cells that give you energy, clarity, and control. Water is one of the most direct, effective, and immediate ways to do that. Now, ask yourself this: how often do you intentionally hydrate before important moments? Before you sit down to work, before a workout, before a conversation that matters? Do you think about your hydration the way you think about your mindset or your preparation? Most people don't, and that's a mistake. If you want to think clearer, speak more powerfully, move with more confidence, you have to give your body the one thing it's been missing. Not supplements, not hacks, just water. Real hydration, not because it's trendy, not because it's a habit, but because it's the foundation. This is not optional. It's not extra credit. It's essential. Your brain is not a machine. It's a living system, an electrical powerhouse. And like any powerful system, it runs on something, not just calories, not just sleep, but water, real clean water. 75% of the brain is made up of water. Let that sink in for a moment. Not protein, not fat, water. which means every thought you have, every emotion you feel, every decision you make, it's all influenced by hydration. You don't just drink water to survive. You drink water to think, to lead, to show up clear, present, and sharp in a world that's constantly demanding more from you. Here's what happens when you're hydrated. Your neurons fire faster. Your synapses communicate better. Your brain becomes more efficient at processing information, making decisions, and managing emotional responses. But the opposite is also true. When you're dehydrated, even just slightly, the electrical signals in your brain begin to slow. You start making slower choices, reacting poorly to stress, and feeling mentally foggy. That's not weakness. That's biology. Most people experience that fog and think, I need more sleep or I need more caffeine. But what they actually need is fluid. Your brain can't perform at full capacity when it's low on water. It's like trying to drive a race car on an empty tank and wondering why the engine's stalling. You're asking your brain to produce elite, level thinking on minimal fuel. Even your mood is affected. Neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin rely on water to be created and transported. So when you're dehydrated, your mood regulation suffers. You feel anxious. You feel irritated. You feel low. And instead of solving the root cause, we stack more stimulants, more distractions, more pressure on a brain that's simply asking for hydration. Let's talk about memory. The hippocampus is the area of your brain responsible for memory formation and recall. It's one of the most water-sensitive parts of the brain. When fluid levels drop, memory suffers. You forget names, lose focus during conversations, struggle to retain what you just read. And this isn't age-related, it's hydration-related. You don't need to be older to feel slower. You just need to be a little dehydrated. Now, think about how many high-pressure decisions we make every day. Think about how much brain power we're constantly using, solving problems, navigating emotions, performing tasks. And we're trying to do all of that without giving the brain its basic fuel. That's like trying to run a high-performance engine without oil. Eventually, it breaks down. And the breakdown doesn't always look like collapse. It looks like anxiety, impulsiveness, forgetfulness, low energy, or poor sleep. That's your brain signaling that it's running below optimal. People want clarity. They want mental sharpness. They want that feeling of being in control. And they think it has to come from something complicated, some big breakthrough, some secret habit. But often, it starts with the basics. It starts with giving your brain the resources it needs to function well. The beautiful thing about hydration is how fast it works. You don't need a month. You don't need a routine. You drink water. Within 20 minutes, blood flow to the brain increases. Neuronal activity stabilizes. Focus returns. Reaction time improves. That's the power of something so simple, so fundamental, and yet so often ignored. If you've ever struggled to get into a flow state, where work feels effortless and focus is automatic, start here. Start by hydrating the prefrontal cortex, which governs your ability to focus, plan, and resist impulses. Works significantly better when you're hydrated. It's not about working harder. It's about creating a biological environment where your mind can actually show up and do what it's capable of. Don't wait until you're dizzy or dry, mouthed. Don't wait until your brain is begging for help. Stay ahead of the curve. Give your brain what it needs before it's depleted. That's how you lead yourself well. That's how you make sharp decisions under pressure. That's how you stay steady when the world around you is spinning. Every night when you go to sleep, your body doesn't just rest, it resets. And during that reset, something else happens. You lose water through your breath, through your skin, through basic metabolism. Without even realizing it, you wake up already in a state of dehydration. Not because you did something wrong, but because your body has been working all night, regulating temperature, clearing waste from your brain, processing hormones. And in doing that, it burns through your water supply. That's why the first thing you do in the morning matters. Before your phone, before your coffee, before anything else, you need water. It's not about habit. It's about biology. Your brain, after 68 hours without water, is functioning at a lower capacity. Blood is thicker. Neuronal communication is slower. And the longer you delay rehydrating, the longer you prolong that foggy, sluggish feeling we've learned to call normal. Most people don't think of dehydration as something that happens overnight. But if you breathe, especially through your mouth, If you sweat, even mildly, or if you wake up once or twice to use the bathroom, you're losing fluids, and those need to be replaced. Not with coffee, not with energy drinks. With water, here's the critical part. If the first thing you put into your body is caffeine, what you're doing is hitting your nervous system with a stimulant while it's still in a deficit. Caffeine is a vasoconstrictor. It narrows blood vessels. That slows down hydration even more. It gives you the illusion of alertness while your brain is still lacking the one ingredient it actually needs to function well. That's why so many people crash hard before noon, because they never gave their brain what it was actually craving. There's a feedback loop at play. Wake up dehydrated, delay water, hit caffeine, wired for an hour, then crash. So what do? More caffeine, more sugar, maybe a quick snack. And all of this, meanwhile, is happening in a body that's just asking for water. We've trained ourselves to override the natural signals and replace them with stimulation. When you start your morning with water, especially 500 to 750 milliliters, you're not just quenching thirst. You're sending a signal to your entire nervous system that it's time to activate. You're replenishing fluid around the brain, increasing blood volume, and supporting the systems that regulate focus, mood, and metabolism. That one simple act, done consistently, changes the way your brain functions for the rest of the day. And it's not just about drinking water. It's about how you drink it. Cold water can stimulate the vagus nerve, waking up the body even more. Adding a pinch of natural sea salt or electrolytes can help your cells absorb the water better, especially if you're someone who sweats a lot, trains hard, or wakes up in a warm environment. This isn't about routines. This is about creating the right internal conditions to show up sharp, focused, and balanced. Think about the days when you feel your best, mentally on, emotionally steady, physically energized. I can almost guarantee you that those days started with hydration. It's not a coincidence. It's chemistry. Water supports mitochondrial function, energy production, and neurotransmitter balance. These aren't vague wellness terms. This is measurable biology, and it begins before you even leave your bedroom. The body is incredibly responsive to patterns. When you begin to hydrate early and consistently, your body starts preparing for that. Hormonal cycles adapt. Cortisol levels regulate. Digestion improves. Your sleep even gets better because your internal systems are better supported. And it all starts with that first glass of water. You want mental clarity, emotional balance, and physical strength. Then you have to earn it with consistency. Don't leave your performance to chance. Own your mornings. Own your inputs. Don't let your day begin with depletion and expect peak output. Start with water every day, no compromise. Most people think drinking more water is the solution. Just fill a bottle. If you drink more throughout the day and you're good, but there's a deeper layer no one talks about because it's not just about the amount of water you drink. It's about whether your body can actually use it. You could drink 2 liters a day and still be dehydrated if that water isn't being absorbed at the cellular level. This is where electrolytes come in. Water doesn't travel alone. For it to move through your body, into your tissues, into your muscles, into your brain, it needs help. That help comes in the form of minerals, so sodium, potassium, magnesium, and chloride. These are electrolytes. And without them, your water intake is like trying to pour fuel into a tank to a broken line. It doesn't get where it's supposed to go. We've been told that salt is bad, that sodium is dangerous, that we should cut back. And sure, if your diet is loaded with processed food, you're probably getting too much of the wrong kind. But the truth is, the kind of salt your body needs, natural mineral-rich salt, is critical for hydration, nerve function, and muscle control. When you sweat, you lose sodium. When you urinate, and you lose potassium and magnesium. And if you're not replacing them, your hydration process gets disrupted, no matter how much water you drink. That's why some people drink water all day and still feel tired, dizzy, or foggy. They're not low on fluids, they're low on balance. Their body can't retain the water it's being given. It's like trying to build a house with all the materials but no structure to hold them together. Water is the material. Electrolytes are the framework. When sodium levels drop too low, the body starts flushing water too quickly. You drink more and your cells remain thirsty. This is what's called water intoxication. or hyponatremia in extreme cases, but mild versions of this happen all the time. You drink water but still feel off. That's a sign your cells aren't getting the hydration they need because the minerals that hold that water in place are missing. Now, think about what that means for performance. And let's say you're an athlete or you're training hard in the gym. You're sweating, pushing, breathing hard. That's fluid loss, but more importantly, it's mineral loss. If you're not actively replenishing those electrolytes, you're impairing your body's ability to recover, to regulate heart rate, to move with efficiency. Even if you're just doing deep mental work, thinking hard, staying focused, your brain burns through resources fast. And one of the first things to go is magnesium. Without enough magnesium, the brain can't regulate stress and the nervous system becomes more reactive. So here's the fix. Don't just drink water, upgrade it. In the morning, add a pinch of sea salt or use an electrolyte packet. Look for ones without artificial colors or sugars, just clean minerals. That one step can change your entire system. And it helps you hold onto the water you're drinking. It supports nerve conduction. It lowers perceived stress. And most importantly, it gives your brain and muscles what they need to perform under pressure. Hydration should be strategic, not random. If you know you're going to be under lights, under stress, under strain, prepare your body with both fluids and minerals. If you're going into a deep focus session or an intense workout, preload your system. This isn't guesswork. It's science applied to performance. And if you've ever felt that late afternoon slump, your energy drops, your concentration fades, your motivation disappears. That could be your electrolyte levels crashing. And try adding minerals back in before you reach for caffeine. See how your body responds. Most people notice it within minutes: clearer mind, more steady energy, less reactivity. And because you're no longer working against your biology, you're supporting it. You don't need a complex supplement routine to feel better. You don't need 10 new habits. And you just need to understand what your body's actually asking for. Water gets the spotlight, but electrolytes are the key that unlock its power. And once you start using them with intention, you'll wonder why you ever went without them. Don't just drink more. Drink smarter. The people talk about discipline like it's a mindset, like it's just about grit and willpower. But the truth is, discipline is a biological state before it ever becomes a mental one. If your brain isn't functioning right, if your nervous system is off, if your hormones are unbalanced, if your energy is unstable, then what you're calling a lack of discipline is really just a lack of internal support. And one of the biggest, most overlooked factors in that system is hydration. You can't focus without hydration. You can't regulate emotion without hydration. You can't push through resistance or stay consistent with your goals if your brain is constantly trying to survive a water shortage. And yet, this is exactly what most people do. They wake up dehydrated. They start the day with stimulants, they ignore water for hours, and then they beat themselves up for not feeling sharp, not being productive, not having energy. That's not a character flaw, and that's a chemical imbalance. When you drink water consistently, when your body has the hydration it needs, everything shifts. Neurotransmitters fire more cleanly. Blood flows more freely through the brain. Cortisol levels start to regulate and dopamine becomes more accessible. That means you can feel motivated more often without having to force it. And it means you recover from mental fatigue faster. Discipline isn't about pushing harder. It's about putting yourself in a physiological state that allows you to stay calm under pressure, focused in chaos and clear when others are cloudy. And that state doesn't come from hype. It comes from biology. It comes from hydration. Now think about the moments in your life when discipline breaks, not usually during high energy. It's in the lull. It's after the long meeting, the second workout, the argument that drained you. It's when your nervous system is depleted, your blood sugar's crashing, and your brain's trying to just hold it together. That's when the wrong choices happen. And that's when comfort wins over progress. And more often than not, that vulnerability is tied to dehydration. Here's the science behind it. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that handles executive function, delayed gratification, goal planning, It's extremely sensitive to hydration status. Just a 1% drop in body water can start to reduce its activity. That means your ability to think clearly, resist impulses, and stay committed to long-term goals begins to slip. Not because you're weak, but because the system responsible for control is literally losing power. So the question is, Hugh, how do you expect to master yourself if you're not even giving your brain what it needs to show up strong? You want to be unshakable under stress. Start by being hydrated. You want to build a morning routine that sticks, or stay consistent in your workouts, or show up with energy in your business. Make sure your nervous system has the internal fuel to support those demands. And water is the most immediate, most powerful way to do that. You don't need another life hack. You don't need another discipline secret. You need to respect your biology. You need to drink water, not occasionally, but consistently. You need to understand that every time you skip that step, you're asking your brain to perform with less power, less clarity, less balance. That's a losing game. The difference between someone who is calm and focused and someone who is reactive, impulsive, and scattered is not just mindset, it's chemistry. It's whether their internal system is flooded with stress hormones or supported by proper hydration. It's whether their neurons are firing on a full battery or struggling to stay online. And this is why high performers treat hydration like a ritual, not just because it's healthy, but because it's strategic, because they understand that if they can control how they feel internally, they can control how they act externally. That's where discipline begins, not in the mind, but in the system that supports it. If you want more control, more consistency, and more capacity to stay locked in on your goals, then start where it matters most. Hydrate for discipline. Most people think drinking water is a habit, something you remember when you feel thirsty, or maybe something you try to be better about. But if you really want to take your health, focus, and energy seriously, and hydration needs to stop being a casual habit and start becoming a non-negotiable protocol. That means it's not based on mood, convenience, or chance. It's built into your day like oxygen. Structured, strategic, automatic. Here's what happens when hydration becomes part of your protocol. Your body stops living in survival mode. You stop waking up foggy. Your mood stabilizes. Your energy levels stop crashing in the afternoon, and your brain begins to operate with precision. Not sometimes, every day. Because your system is no longer fighting for baseline, and it's finally supported. Most people wait until they're thirsty, but thirst isn't an early warning system. It's a red alert. By the time you feel it, cognitive function is already dropping, a blood flow is already reduced, and reaction time is already compromised. That's like waiting until your car is overheating before adding oil. That's not maintenance. That's damage control. You don't want to live in damage control. What you want is rhythm. Just like you don't skip sleep, just like you don't skip food, hydration has to happen on a schedule. The nervous system craves predictability. The body thrives on consistency. So here's a simple framework that works. Start your morning with 500 to 750 milliliters of water. Within 30 minutes of waking, before coffee, before food, your brain has been operating all night in a dehydrated state. Your organs have been working to detox, reset, repair. You've been exhaling water vapor for hours. That first dose of hydration isn't optional. It's foundational. It turns the lights on in your system. And if you want to take it a step further, add a pinch of high-quality salt or a clean electrolyte mix that helps your body absorb and retain the water rather than flushing it out. Then you move into your day. And here's the mistake most people making. They either forget to drink water for hours, or they chug a liter all at once and think they're caught up. Neither works. Hydration isn't about volume. It's about pacing. Your body can only absorb a certain amount of water per hour. So think in small, consistent intervals. 250 milliliters every hour. That keeps your brain alert, your energy smooth, and your mood stable. When you're heading into physical exertion, a workout, a long walk, any kind of heat exposure, pre-hydrate. Don't wait until you're sweating. Hydrate before the stress hits your system. That's how you support endurance, strength, and recovery. And again, if you're sweating a lot, you're losing sodium, potassium, magnesium. Replacing those isn't just a performance tip. It's essential to brain function, muscle contraction, and hydration balance. As the day winds down, don't stop. Hydration doesn't end just because your workday does. In the evening, take in enough water to support digestion and nervous system recovery, but avoid large amounts right before bed. You don't want your sleep disrupted by bathroom trips. Small sips leading up to sleep are ideal. Now, this sounds simple. It is, but don't confuse simple with easy. The hard part isn't drinking the water, it's being consistent. Because most people don't build systems, they rely on willpower. They think, I'll try to drink more, and that works for a day or two, then falls apart. Why? Because trying isn't a protocol. Trying is guessing, and your biology doesn't respond to guesses. It responds to structure. This is where you shift from random behavior to intentional action. You build the routine not because it's exciting, but because it's necessary. Because your body is a system. Your brain is a high-performance engine, and high-performance engines don't run well when they're missing essential inputs. You want to feel your best more often. If you want to stop relying on energy hacks and quick fixes, then take your hydration seriously. Build it into your day like you build in your meals, your workouts, your priorities. Not as an afterthought, but as a core foundation of performance. Don't let something so basic be the reason you fall short of your potential. Make hydration your protocol. Every day, no excuses.